Hello, good morning. Uh, Never rains, it pours. Coffee in hand. Guys, I have to really try and move my brain away from the ridiculous situation that I find myself in. Like we can all squabble like cats and dogs and achieve absolutely nothing. Um, I just need to move on in my own little world that I live in, which really only involves trying to be happy each day, which tries to maybe bring to mind to many of you out there that we have to be conscious of the fact that not only you watch these videos, but also others that may feel affected by what I have to say. And it's not that I'm stupid, it's just that I don't see the need that I have to start creating a false impression of anything. I think one of the things that comes through with many of your comments to the channel is that you consider me to be a kind, considerate person, maybe wisely, whatever. But I appreciate those comments. But they're not always felt by everybody. And naturally, you're going to get your trolls. You're going to get friends of friends who will give their tuppence worth just to rile up another family member, maybe. And that's what clearly has happened over the period of time that we've done this channel. And I say we because initially it was myself and Jane. And of course, if either I or Jane didn't like the tone of a conversation that we were talking about, we would either delete it or we would edit the video. I stand by most of what I've said in the past. I don't think I've actually put my foot in it. I don't seem to be walking around with toes hanging out of my mouth, being held in by what teeth I have. But joking aside, every time I do a video now, it's under a much heavier scrutiny by the opposing side, so to speak. So I'm going to try and move away from my own situation, and I'd ask that you guys also do the same, in the sense that I'm going to focus on starting again, or moving on, or just another approach to looking at different things here in the Philippines. Because inevitably what's going to happen is it's a bit like Mike's Philippine journey. Remember that obnoxious bloke hiding with a big black background? The one they took down? Well, he loved to rubbish people. He loved to pull them to pieces. And for some, that was amusing to watch the victim and the predator at work. And for me, I think life is more important than becoming either a victim or listening to the predator. Cyberbullying is a big thing around the world. But we also have to remember that we can turn off at any point by just pressing the button. In the case of this channel, ostensibly it was here to help provide additional funds to help one of the daughters that I was living with. And it still remains that way. Whoever or whatever the money gets spent on now is only up to them to decide. And therefore, I would ask that you continue watching the channel because, number one, it's hopefully enjoyable and informative to you. A warning, maybe, also, or a cautionary note. that things can go pear-shaped, even here in the Philippines. But what you'll face, of course, is the wrath of more and more and more emotional blackmail. That's what happens. It becomes, he said this, she said that. I've got this, I've got that. You know, what has the world come to where you have to photo shoot, or what do they call it? Screenshot every message you get from the opposing side. Why? Because you need to remember what people say to you, because they're always telling you that, like Mike, we have the evidence. They believe that everything like that can be sorted out in a court. That's another way of bluffing you. We hear lawyers talking the same way. They say, well, if we can't sort this out, we'll have to file a case and we'll have to bring it to court. Again, two things happen there. One is stupidity takes over, and the second one is that it costs a lot of money to do that for both parties. And the only winners, as we all know, is the lawyers. In the West, many a good man or a good woman has lost the battle, lost all their money, and where do they sit? Both of them, penniless. But does the lawyer seem penniless when he drives around in his latest Maserati? Don't think so. So, when you want common sense, it's not always a good idea to involve a lawyer. If it becomes a tricky issue where you've got a corporate body and you need to do that, but matrimonial is just a slagging match between two eloquent lawyers, and you pay the price, both of you. And we also have to remember that here in the Philippines, there are different laws that apply to different situations. One, of course, is a married person has different rights than that of a person just living together. A married person, theoretically, is not allowed to live with someone, as I understand it, whether they're in agreement or not with the ex. But also, you do have some rights, and that is that the courts will recognize foreigners building homes on Filipino land. They won't want to get involved in he said this, she said that. That's not the nicety of law. Here in the Philippines, it's very black and white. It's just simply, he paid for it. Yes, there's an acknowledgement by both parties that some proportion might have been paid by another one, or maybe even another family member. But the way they resolve them, in most cases, and you only have to look at case history, as my attorney pointed out to me, the judge will more than likely just say that the property must be sold. Now, of course, that may well be the case. And if you have no wish to see your ex in the street, then that's the time you negotiate a reasonable outcome to the situation. There's no need to throw each other out with the bathwater, so to speak. You can come up with a proposal such as, and as an example, I can give you that, and that is that you can sell a property, you can raise a substantial amount for all intents and purposes. You can ensure that the majority of what is there maybe goes to your ex to enable her to buy another property, freehold. Therefore, her life is not topsy-turvy anymore, and she can hold her head up high and own a home and own it outright for her and her family. And likewise, you can walk away tall with maybe a lesser amount, who knows? But that would be the case of a married couple. It's not the case of people living together, because there's no obligation by myself to give all. But then that's not me. I always am fair, and I would hope that other people are fair with me. And in the past, that's exactly what has happened. All of my exes, all of them, all 27 of them, I'm joking now, have always walked away with a lion's share. And in many cases, I have decided that it's maybe best to let it linger, let it just die a natural death. Because after all, I believed when I was told that I would be cared for till I die, even as recently as the last few months. I realized that that was not the case, and therefore it's caused the situation where I find myself in now. You know, there's so many things flying around. I can't be bothered to confront them all because they are just time wasters in my mind. I'll block you. No, I won't. I'll block you. No, I won't. And all that sort of stuff. It's so childish. But we're dealing with Filipina. We're dealing with emotion. That's the way they deal with it. The monster within us, they might often refer to themselves. But again, if you are a kind individual, a foreigner, you it's not that you put up with it, but you accept all warts and all in your partner, whether you're with her or away from her. When you're away, you can have a chance to breathe the fresh air and realize that life is able to be different elsewhere. And the idea of going back, starting again, isn't always the best option. Statistics are that they wouldn't work anyway. So I want you all to put this now behind you and let's start. I'll try and find some new content that will hopefully lift you up and keep you watching British Expat in the Philippines. I'd urge you or encourage you to support my channel, both this one and also a Grumpy Brit in the Philippines. And you can do so by donating to, PayPal. Had to think for a minute. I'm not used to this, but all donations will be gladly received. It's not an e-bag, but if you enjoyed it, it's like buying me a copy. Why give the money to buy me a copy when you can give it directly to me and I can benefit by it today? So with that, we say farewell for the moment, and I hope that you all have a wonderful day and a good evening. Bye now.